We will focus on a specific marginalised group originating from Burma who were forced out of their country due to conflict and had to relocate to the borders of Thailand for safety. Therefore, our focus will be on Thailand refugee camps and how education may or may not help them to integrate back into civilisation and even move back to their own country. Cowdell 1998 suggests two different ways in which conflict can be described. However, the main focus will be on new wars. These are wars which are fought within country borders over issues of ethnic, linguistic and religious identity. Due to these new wars, UNESCO reported that over 2 million children were killed over conflicts in 2008, and 20 million children have had to flee their homes as refugees or internally displaced persons. In addition, these new wars reveal fault lines of division and segregation within societies, leading to the outbreak of violent conflict. When these conflicts occur and marginalised groups are forced to flee the education given can avert the outbreak of violent conflict, as conflict itself has profound effects on education. Once the refugees have settled into their camps and have had the opportunity to set up a school, the schools can help to shape the course of conflict in a positive way by providing psychosocial support.
The conflict area that will be focused on is Thailand refugee camps from Myanmar, Burma. Since 1984, Karen refugees have been migrating to the Thailand borders to escape the conflict and extreme human rights violations that have been inflicted upon them by the Burmese military regime. Thailand has around 142,000 refugees living in 9 official camps on the Thailand-Burma border. However, this figure is estimated to be a lot higher, as for the people to be considered refugees, they have to sign the Geneva Convention, otherwise they are known as illegal immigrants who live outside the camp. The starting point for conflict in Burma was during World War II. The Burmese Independent Army was formed in this time and were the ones that carried out many atrocities against the Quran. The main being entire villages of Quran being massacred, as well as women being herded into camps to be systematically raped by the BIA soldiers. After the war, it was hoped that the situation would get better. However, their bad treatment carried on and potentially got worse. Minority ethnic groups were no longer welcome in Burma, leading them to flee and set up refugee camps on the Thailand border. Although the Quran fled for their own safety, they were also forced to relocate by the army. In doing this, the army used the civilians for forced labour at local army camps. To ensure labour from them, the army used different forms of torture such as rape, summary execution and the destruction of villages and goods supplies. Those that were forced into labour either had the option to stay and starve or to try and flee, the end result being that they could or would eventually die.
Once the Quran had crossed the border into Thailand and signed the Geneva Convention to become a legal refugee, the Thai authorities allowed them to set up temporary refugee camps, ensuring that the refugees understood that when the situation permitted they would return back to Burma. With the camps being temporary, it meant that schools that were built upon these camps were temporary too. The education in these camps were controlled by the Thai government, meaning that the resources and the context of their learning was restricted. After being relocated, the families went through serious life-changing circumstances, leading to adults having post-traumatic stress and depression, which then impacted on the way their children lived their lives. Many families had responsibilities such as to maintain a farm which the children were expected to stay at and help out. This resulted in many children having to leave school at a younger age or not attending school at all. Furthermore, due to the lack of sanitation in the camps, the rate at which those living within them got ill increased, leading to high rates of malaria and anemia, which are amongst the most common diseases. Disease rates increased due to the lack of nutrition and medicine in the camps, which is another contributing factor of the low attendance rates at schools.
During the 2007-8 academic year, an estimated 38,000 children and adolescents were enrolled in refugee schools. Unfortunately, due to restrictions, some teachers teach illegally, hiding from the Thai authorities, risking deportation. School materials are limited. The students are limited to 4 pencils, 2 ballpoint pens and 6 composition books for the academic year. The Thai government ensures that any textbooks given to the camps do not have any political ideas, attitudes or values written within them. Students in the camps only have $44 per academic year compared to students attending high schools who get $1,048. Families in the camps have stated that they earn nothing or between $0.3 to $3 a month.
In 1948, the UN Declaration of Human Rights changed education by guaranteeing the right to a basic education for all. They stated that this was one of the very important steps in establishing education as a right for all and allowed education to be formally recognised as a human right. Then later, in 1990, the World Conference on Education for All proclaimed
UNICEF, in their report on a human rights-based approach, has listed 6 positives that, if used internationally, could improve education for all, like for those who are living in refugee camps. These 6 significant added values are: still I call it magic. You're such a precious jewel.
Iron Stow emphasised whilst in Burma, refugees suffered extreme exclusion, including physical threats, human rights violations and other hostilities. Additionally, Karen people are not allowed to teach in their mother tongue or challenge official versions of Burmese history. Internally displaced people in Burmese jungles are still currently living under these conditions.
However, since the refugees have relocated to Thailand, students are excluded from opportunities that the local children have access to. For example, taking a trip outside the camp to explore Thailand and have access to the Thai national curriculum. Furthermore, Thailand refugees lack the opportunity to study further education and employment outside of the camps as opposed to their Thai peers. Bush and Saltarellis 2000 define ways of inclusion under the two phases approach, which are access to education, quality and relevance of education, and management structures.
The Basic Education Support Towards Transition BEST programme Save the Children with its support from non-government organisations support the provision to 9 refugee camps on the Myanmar border in Ma Hong So, Tak, Ratchaburi and Kanchanaburi provinces. These programmes access the camp's needs and act accordingly, including repairing schools, building schools, providing textbooks for students, training new teachers and provide professional development for teachers. Additionally, the BEST programme facilitate dialogue between education stakeholders from government sectors and non-government sectors to find sustainable education solutions for refugees. It is estimated that by the end of the programme, 37,000 students across the 9 refugee camps will have access to basic education by the end of the project cycle. Furthermore, literary rates across the camps are striving to be achieved to better the residents' life opportunities.
Additionally, the United Nations Development Programme Human Development Reports emphasise poverty is a characteristic feature of the world in which we live. In order to combat such exclusion, we need to understand the behaviour of those living in poverty. One of the most important aspects is the need to strengthen people's life skills. In order to do so, the UNDP suggests 6 main topics that need to be focused on.
In order to accomplish these skills, this needs to be dealt with holistically, ensuring the social, cultural and economic context of the learners is taken into consideration.
The Thailand-Burma border refugees have had to flee from their country for 32 years. The question we have to ask is, will they ever be able to move back to their home country Burma and live a normal life again?